Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this is our fourth generative AI event. Today, it's going to be all around AI agents in the world of advice. Let me just run through a quick agenda. So, I'm going to give a quick welcome and a bit of an introduction into AI agents, and then I'm going to pass it on to Neil Lathia, who's going to talk about safe automation with AI agents. Neil is the CTO and co-founder of Gradient Labs. So they're doing some phenomenal stuff in the world of customer service and other kinds of areas. But previously, he was the head of machine learning at Monzo, and was also in the kind of AI team at Skyscanner as well. So he's had a great impact on all of our lives. You know, making sure we get good value for money flights whenever we go on holiday, and phenomenal banking experiences. We're then going to have a short coffee break, just to mingle, and then we're going to end with a panel, which is going to be chaired by Tim, our CPO. And once again, this time around, just like last time, we're going to have a Slido for that panel. So that's the access code for the Slido. So if you have any questions you want to submit or anything like that, whilst we're presenting, don't hesitate to kind of log into that and submit your questions as we go along. Cool, right. I'm then going to kick off with a bit of, before I kick off with the intro into AI agents, I'm just going to talk a bit about the kind of macro kind of environment we're in, where we think AI is headed in the coming years. I think 5 years is a bit bold, but I think, at least the kind of next year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, what is it that we in the AI kind of community are kind of focused on building into our thinking, building into our plans, and kind of exploring and building MVPs around? And what are the different things we're factoring in as we move forward? There's one which is around model capability. And still to this day, like even from 2.5 years ago to now, I'm still failed to be astounded every kind of 3 to 9 months as new versions of models get launched. And I think the great thing to have seen on that front is the fact that there's not just one provider of these models. There's multiple providers of these models, all competing, all with slightly different flavors. You know, if there's something you want to do where it's all really down to trust and accuracy, there's certain models you go to. If it's more around being multimodal, wanting some audio or some pictures being generated, there are other models you use. If it's more around tone of voice or speed, there are other models you factor in. It's brilliant having that kind of selection, but it's also incredible to see the rate at which these models are kind of evolving and progressing, and also the price coming down. I read a stat recently that the price of a token for ChatGPT has reduced 200-fold in the last 18 months. I mean, that is just incredible to see. The next is this move from being quite general to more specialized, right? The models that we use today, the ChatGPTs, the Claudes, they're very general. They're kind of trained on the whole body of the internet, and they're not kind of specialists in terms of their knowledge. And if you look at where we go today for help, for expert input, it is normally specialists, right? We go to a doctor, we go to a financial advisor, we go to a professor to get educated, or a teacher, or whatever it may be. That will be a huge trend in terms of how that specialization gets done. Is it fine-tuning models? Is it combining models with data sets, with certain functions? What is it that will bring that specialization and that ability into these models that are being built out? And then finally, the topic for today are these AI agents. And I think the kind of really deep, meaningful aspect of this is the fact that it's bringing AI closer to, I guess, what humans do on a day-to-day basis. The way you interact with the people, the colleagues you work with, is not by saying, okay, can you redraft this email? Can you do this? And the kind of ways we've been interacting with AI to date, you tend to give your colleagues a task, or someone in your team a task, and you allow them the autonomy of working out how to then go and do that task. And then you provide them with the trust to actually go off and do it. And I think the new paradigm we're moving in with AI agents brings us a lot closer to that. And it means that we're moving to a point where we can look at chunks of work in a far more similar way to the way we've been thinking about them in our normal course of business, in our normal daily work. And I think this is an area that a lot of the large providers of models are very much focused on now, and there are a number of components of this that I'll be covering off. And just from a few days ago, so this is like earlier this month, Sam Altman, who's the founder of OpenAI, was at the, I think it was the Deal Book conference, the New York Times conference, and he basically said agents are the thing that everyone is talking about for good reason. The idea that you can give an AI system a pretty complicated task, the kind you give to a very smart human, that takes a while to go off and do and use a bunch of tools and create something of value. So this is the big transition even people like Sam Altman are starting to talk about and to kind of explore. Okay, so I'm gonna just talk 5 to 10 minutes around just to give a bit of an introduction before pass it on to Neil. And it's quite funny. I've got two young sons. I've got a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're quite into the Alex Rider series of books at the moment. They're kind of, it's this 16-year-old who's a secret agent. They've also just recently watched their first Bond movies. So I work from home, I work in our living room, and they often come into the room when I'm talking about agents. So they've got a very different idea of what I'm talking about. So they come in, oh, Dad, are you getting involved with secret agents? Are you, like, and a few evenings recently I've been wearing a tux. For some of these awards dinners or Christmas parties, and then, oh yeah, Dad's becoming an agent. So you'll be glad to know I'm not becoming an agent. Daniel Craig, I think he's stepping down, but he's absolutely safe. And I will come back to Bond towards the end of this this introduction talk. But I think it's important to first define what we talk about when we talk about these AI agents. They are software systems, so they are fully software-based, and they're designed to act autonomously to achieve specific goals. In terms of their characteristics, they can perceive their environment, so they can take inputs in from the environment around them. They can do this on a kind of autopilot background, always on kind of basis. They can make decisions. They essentially have a brain. So they can go and figure out what to do given these inputs, and then they can take actions to accomplish tasks. They can actually change the environment that they are present in. So just to pick into those 3 key aspects, there's one which is around autonomy. So these agents that you can create, they can operate independently once they're given a goal. They can make decisions without consistent human intervention. So this is quite different to what we're used to today with interacting with models. Right now, we provide a prompt, we get an output of that prompt, we then refine or provide another prompt and slowly work iteratively with a system, with a model, to get to the output we desire. This is very different with an AI agent because you give the end goal you want to get to, and an AI agent can essentially keep on iterating and keep on working independently until it gets there. And this brings us on to the second key aspect, which is goal-focused. So AI agents can take a broader, wider goal, a macro objective, and it can break it down into sub-goals and take the output of one of the tasks that it completes. It can take the output and have it as one of the inputs for the next task, and have all manner of reasoning involved in all of that. So this is really powerful because this is essentially the way that we're used to providing work. Ultimately, we want people around us, we want systems around us to achieve a certain goal. And this means that the way we can interact, the way we can set these AI agents up are to achieve the goals that we desire. And then finally, environment interaction. And this could be through data inputs, through sensors, through and I'm going to come to a few examples of this, or it could be in taking actions. And this is where things get really, really interesting in terms of going from AI that is really focused mostly on content generation, content inputs, data inputs, data outputs, that kind of thing, to AI that can actually do things on your behalf. And just breaking that down, so those key components, some people think they're kind of talk about 4 components, some people talk about 5, I'll talk about the 5th potential one. But essentially, one of the first key components are sensors or inputs into the system. So the key thing, I guess, one needs to ask themselves when it comes to sensors or inputs are kind of what information does the agent need to do its job? Is it an email coming through? Is it like a certain change in the environment? Like what is it that that agent needs to trigger a certain behavior or trigger a certain type of goal seeking? The second is the decision-making engine. So on this front, it is how will your agent make choices? How will your agent figure out what it needs to do? How will your agent essentially reason? And this is what people generally call the first part of the brain of an AI agent. The next is the action system itself. So what actions are you going to be allowing your agent to do? How can it interact with its environment? Is it sending emails? Is it making phone calls? Like what is it? Is it moving money? Like what are those specific actions that you are going to be allowing your agent to conduct? And then the fourth is around memory and learning. So the agents can essentially take in the outputs or the changes in its environment, and then can kind of iterate and learn and react on the back of that. So essentially, the question you need to ask yourself there is how will your agent remember and how will it improve? And then there's like a 5th one that sometimes comes up, which is around control systems and safety, which Neil's going to be talking in a lot more detail. So let's think about an example here. So let's say we want to set up an AI agent that can manage kind of meeting scheduling. So what kind of sensors would this need? So there'd definitely be a sensor around kind of calendar access, because you need to know kind of what slots are free. There's email integrations, if someone kind of comes in, sends an email requesting a meeting, that kind of thing. Decision-making wise, there could be rules in place around scheduling priorities, how to resolve conflicts, potentially how to pad meetings. If there's a meeting with a certain individual or a certain team, then I want half an hour before, half an hour afterwards, that kind of thing. Ensuring that you have breaks as part of your working day, that kind of thing. There's actions. So the simple actions, I guess, for a meeting scheduler would be around sending emails or creating calendar events or moving calendar events, perhaps, inviting people to a particular scheduled event, that kind of thing. There's memory, so recording user preferences, learning from past scheduling patterns, that kind of thing, or where stuff could have gone wrong with meeting schedules, like maybe there was a meeting set up on the other side of London, someone couldn't make it, learning off the back of that. And then if there was to be a 5th kind of area around that, it could be control, safeguards, always allowing a human to accept a meeting, that kind of thing. Or having a human in the loop to make sure the meeting is not a meeting that individual does not want to attend. So that's almost like a worked example there. So yeah, I'm coming back to James Bond. Because even though he is a secret agent, perhaps the best secret agent there is, James Bond has sensors. He takes in all manner of inputs from the world around him. He's got a very intelligent brain, all around decision making, figuring out what to do, very quick with his reactions. He's got a very effective action system. And some would say he never really learns, but I guess he kind of does with certain things. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Neil to talk about safety and the sorts of controls that you can put in place. With AI agents, one of the things that we're transitioning to from AI that is very data and information based to AI that can actually do things and act, is that means that the AI can now potential, I mean, there's upside and downside to that, right? The AI being able to do stuff, to move money, to send emails, to schedule meetings on your behalf. There's a lot there that could go wrong. So as part of this transition and as part of this evolution into looking more and more at AI agents, those in the kind of AI community are focusing a lot more around safety and all the checks and balances that you need to put in place in order to make these AI agents deployable and safe. So on that, I'm going to pass to you, Neil.